Happy Devil's Wednesday. This is the State of the Fan Address, episode 280, titled Dineen is out in Utica. Oh, we got a lot to talk about. I'm your host, Sam Wu, here with pucksandpitchforks.com's editor-in-chief, Nick Villano, streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, X Live, and Twitch on the Let's Go Devils Network. As Steve Engel's filing in. Sorry for the technical difficulties before. Welcome, Nick. What's up?
Yeah, it's a strange day. I just realized my camera looks kind of weird, but I'm not going to change it now. Feel like I'm like right up in your face.
I'm just going to sit back and relax a little bit here.
Yeah. Listen, it's the day after the U.S. election, so I feel like a lot of people have different emotions, and a lot of people are kind of topsy-turvy, but you might have missed it today. The Devils fired a coach. And I know while a lot of people don't pay attention to the AHL, this is kind of significant because a lot of people wanted Kevin Dineen to take over for Lindy Ruff when he was fired last year. Hoping he would take over instead of Travis Green, and then some others wanted him to become the head coach in the offseason. They wanted Kevin Dineen to be that guy. And I'm not one of those people. I'm trying to put this into, I'm trying to be like diplomatic about it, about how he's done in Utica, ever since they won. What did they win? They won. It was something crazy, like 22 games. His first 22 games with the Utica, or his first 18 games, something like that. He won, or no, it was 13. Sorry, 13. He won his first 13 games in a row when he started with Utica in 2021. But we forget that team wildly disappointed for the rest of the season. They still got the number one seed just because of how many points they accumulated. When you get 26 out of 26 points, it's hard to fall off for the rest of the season. But they played about 500 hockey the rest of the way and got knocked out in the first round of the playoffs to their rival, the Rochester Americans. And the year after that, they had a budding rivalry with the Toronto Marlies, who were the best team in the AHL, I believe, that season. 22-23, the Devils squeaked into the playoffs on the back of Nico Dawes, if I remember correctly, and Dawes got them through the first round of the playoffs, and they got just taken to the woodshed by the Marlies. I think they only won one game in the second round. I think it was only a 5-game series, but they lost in 4, and then they missed the playoffs last year. And now this year, they start 0-8-1. And I know a lot of people are saying, oh, look at the roster. I know a lot of people are saying it's like the Devils didn't do a good enough job building the depth there. I understand where people are coming with this. Their center depth is terrible, right? Like right now, I think Ryan Schmelzer is like the only guy of note. I think Shane Shane Bowers might be playing a little bit of center, but the center situation there is pretty horrific, and it has a lot to do with just how the Devils have been drafting over the past 4 years. Really, they haven't really made center a priority because you had Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier, Dawson Mercer, and then you traded for Eric Halla. So you didn't really need centers. And then, you eventually trade for Curtis Lazar. It wasn't part of the draft strategy. I'm sure if people fell to them, I'm sure there's guys who did fall to them that they took at center. But there's just like when you look at my top 25 prospects, like I couldn't even tell you the first guy who's a center on there. It's all wingers, it's all defensemen. It's a lot of defensemen. It's a ton of defensemen, and a couple goalies. So I get that issue. I get it. But when I look at that defense, especially since Seamus Casey has joined Utica and has played incredibly well. Seamus Casey, him and Nolan Foote are by far the best two players that they have. Um, but like the defense also has Tobias Phelan, Dineen Masul. They have a couple good players there, like a really talented players. Then you have Nico Dawes and Isaac Peltier and net. I I didn't expect it to be this bad. I thought you were going to be like a 500 team to start until like some things shook out, and if you got Simone Nemitz down there, like maybe you get even better. And it's just not landing. Like I don't, it's and they were getting the bricks beat off them every game for the first like 6. They've been more competitive over the last 3 or 4, but like this something's not working down there, and a lot of people just want to blame Tom Fitzgerald and Dan McKinnon, but it's got you're not going to fire the GM right now, right? That's not something you're going to do. And when you look at it, like there's some important decisions that are coming that are involving Utica. You already made the one with Casey, but like, what are you going to do with Casey moving forward? You don't want him to be in that losing environment. And then you got Nemitz. What are you going to do with Nemitz? Are you going to send him down to go lose a lot, but play a lot of minutes? Or are you going to keep him in the NHL? And then here's the thing, and I've brought this up before in this podcast, but I don't see people, especially writers and journalists, bring this up a lot. You take a major pay cut for the most part, unless you have a one-way contract. You take an incredible pay cut to go to the AHL. And it's usually like 1/5 of your salary. And that's big. So to go down there, if you're Seamus Casey or if you're Simone Nemitz or if you're Masul or Villano or Nolan Foote especially, because he was a guy who thought he was going to be in the NHL this year. You talk to those guys, you say, I'm going to send you down there so you develop and you'll come back to the NHL. Like, you have to have those conversations with those guys so they understand the priority level there. But if that happens and you're cutting their salary by 80%, and then they're losing all the time, and they're not getting that development, it's a problem. And I think that the Devils and like you're seeing some failed development projects down there, right? Like Chase Stillman looks worse this year than he's looked in the past 2. Josh Philman doesn't look good. Like he doesn't look like the scorer that he was supposed to be. And he's young and like he was a project, but like you expect some talent to come out of there. And Villano's another guy who I haven't seen progress the way you want. And Nico Dawes straight up looks bad this year. That doesn't make sense. Like he should look so much better this year, and he just doesn't. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I've watched every Utica game. I'm going to pay more attention now, just to kind of see if this new coach brings things up. But I wrote about Utica this weekend before the coaching firing because I wanted to see what happened, and just to kind of dive into the numbers and a lot of what people who could see on the surface saying is true. Like the offense has taken 10 steps back. All right, it's really only outside of Casey amongst the forwards. It's really only Nolan Foote and Brian Hallinan who's doing really anything in Utica. But you got people there. Who, you got Adam Beckman. You traded Graham Clark for Adam Beckman because you expected Beckman to be a better proposition, right? You thought he had a better shot of, gaining back that NHL prowess and playing well. He's been terrible. Bowers is a guy you re-signed after you traded for him last year. It was Bowers the guy they traded for Tice Thompson? I'm trying to remember.
I don't remember.
It's one of those. But, Tice Thompson was a promising prospect. You traded him for, is it Bowers? Now I'm second guessing myself. But you traded for Bowers, and then you re-signed him this offseason because you thought he could be pretty good. You re-signed Max Willman this offseason because you thought he played pretty well last year. You want him to be a part of a tweener guy who can come back up in the NHL at any point. But here's the thing. They're all playing terribly. And, when you're put in this position, you see like Justin Dowling, who came up to the NHL when Curtis Lazar got injured. He's been all right. right? His underlyings are really good. The eye test, like, he hasn't made any major mistakes. So you're like, okay, like, why is a guy coming up and playing under Sheldon Keefe and looking so much better than he is under Kevin Dineen? And I think that's part of the reason why you're seeing this move be made. But as a Devils team, if you're Tom Fitzgerald, if you're Dan McKinnon,
Walsh, by the way.
right? Okay. So it was another promising prospect. I remember it was a 1-for-1 promising prospect trade. And Walsh hasn't done anything in Boston, right? He hasn't been able to make the NHL, so that is what it is. But you're looking at what you have in Utica, and I'm actually going to write about this after the podcast, so that'll be up by midnight. Just on who can like really benefit from this, and there's a couple guys I'm going to really look hard at. But it's pretty clear, like, some of the ones who can. So I'll be writing about that. But, like, Sam, what are your just initial thoughts on the firing?
It's surprising, but it's not. I mean, Dineen's tenure with the Devils organization started out with a bang. And, you would think that, okay, maybe he would be the heir apparent to Lindy Ruff's position, and then Lindy, in that historical year, ripped out, X amount of points. So there was 112 points. Dineen doing very well in Utica in that first year. But you were right. They had a hot start, but they made it to the playoffs by a lot of points because they were patting on the points early on in that first season, Dineen. And they fizzled out against the Rochester Americans, which was kind of a buzzkill a little bit about the farm system. And it kind of plateaued, really, from then on, where, Utica wasn't really, you would expect with the amount of young talent coming from Utica that, they would be doing better than the record suggests. But at the same time, there were a lot of injuries going on with the New Jersey Devils the last couple of years prior to this season.
Yeah, that's part of it.
So
that's definitely part of it.
So you're especially defensively, you're pulling Simon Nemitz out of the AHL last year, as a rookie, and you're pulling amongst other kids prematurely, like the goaltending, like Nico Dawes and Kira Schmid. It goes on, right? I'm wondering if, again, I don't think that it's the mindset of any of these coaches. I'm wondering if Dineen getting passed over when they were looking for a head coach, I don't know. I wouldn't say he was dogging it, but you're not exactly motivated where you're really going nowhere.
Yeah, but, like, what leg does he have to stand on there? Like, he didn't make the playoffs in the AHL last year. I get it that he didn't get, like, it's one thing to understand that you weren't dealt a great hand and, like, to ask for another chance at your position, but it's another thing to underperform with the hand you were dealt and then ask for a promotion. You know what I mean? Like, but a lot of this doesn't always happen within a vacuum. A lot of it doesn't always have logic. Like, this is a guy who can see it's like, maybe, that first year, we don't know what these conversations were like. We don't know what his contract situation is, right? Like, I don't think it's public knowledge, like how long he was signed for, or I would imagine this was his fourth year, right? 22, 23, 24. Yeah, so this is his fourth year starting the season. I imagine he signed a 3-year deal originally, and at some point they signed an extension. I don't know if that's public knowledge or not.
No idea.
Yeah, so if it is, it kind of fell under the radar. So I don't know, and I don't know, like, how, like, Sheldon Keefe's contract is guaranteed. If the Devils fire him and he doesn't take another job, like, we owe him the contract. I don't know if that's the case for Dineen. Just because I don't know, like, how AHL contracts are kind of listed. right? I don't know if they're listed the same. I don't know if they fall under the same collective bargaining agreement. Um, but I'll say this: I think it was the right move because while I think Dineen is a good coach, he clearly wasn't the right coach. If you need a coach that's going to, I mean, the Devils can't say that the goal for Utica this year is to make the playoffs. Like, that's off the table almost, right? You kind of have to just understand what this year is about. So this year is about development. You got to take a look at who's on that team, and you got to say who are the guys that we have hopes for, and you got to put them in a spot. That means Stillman. That means Philman. That means Villano. That means obviously Casey has earned his spot, but earned or not, you got to see what these guys have, and you got to give them as much time as possible to develop. And if a guy like Schmelzer has to take a back seat, or a guy like, you got to ask it. Like, you got to be honest with yourself. Like, what do we think we have in Hallinan? Is this a guy who could eventually be an NHLer? I think he's 26, so he's getting up there. Like, but he's a guy, like, he was great at Michigan Tech. He might be older. I'm actually going to check. Nolan Foot's a guy I think that they still have hopes for. And he's still relatively young. So Hallinan's 25. He's going to turn 26 in January. But you have to, like, ask yourself, like, what's more important, getting Philman to develop or to get Hallinan to continue scoring? Who do I want to give the minutes to? Who do I want to put on the top line with our top players? Who do I want to put on the first power play? Who do I want, protecting the lead? Who do I want? Like, you got to, like, figure out who's going to be in these situations. It's almost like, so in basketball, there's always this talk about, like, who's the starter, who's the starter. But, like, in inner circles, it's understood that it actually matters more who plays the last 4 minutes than who the starter is, right? The starter gets, like, the introduction. The starter gets the the big to do at the beginning of the game. But, like, I remember when Jason Kidd played for the Knicks that one season. He said, "I don't care about starting. I care about finishing. I want to be out there when the game is on the line." And those moments are growth for young players. Like, being in those moments and knowing how to react and knowing the right mindset to have, and more importantly, knowing the wrong mindset to have, and when it happens, how to address it. That all happens in the AHL. And that could still happen with the Utica Comets. Like, this start is unprecedented. Like, this isn't going to happen for the rest of the season. Like, they're going to start winning games. They're going to start being in games. They're going to be in more overtimes. They're going to be in more of these crucial positions. And you needed a coach. And I'm going to do more research on Ryan Parent, or Parent. I'm assuming it's Parent, but maybe it's Parent. I'll do more research on Ryan Parent and see. Like, I know he's an extra NHLer. He played in Nashville. He played in a couple places. I want to see what his coaching style is. I want to see what he's done already. And, who do I expect to play really well under him?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of wondering what's the goal of Utica this season. I mean, it's already been derailed. Maybe they can make a comeback. But, I mean, how is the Devils farm system right now?
I mean, that's
you had to send Seamus Casey down,
right.
But, again, you've got to have some semblance of a winning culture when you're developing these players. Not just their skills, they're giving them the experience, but, when they come to the NHL, that they know what to expect. And that right now, I mean, it's surprising that Kevin Dineen is out, but things got really stale with Utica. It was sexy at first when his tenure first started there. But I think he really wanted the NHL coaching job, Kevin Dineen.
I mean, I assume he took this job to eventually get hired somewhere else. I assume when he won 13 games in a row to start his career there, he thought he was going to have the pick of the jobs at the end of that season, and maybe even maybe even after that first one went bad, season after that he probably thought, and he probably looked at it like Lindy Ruff is such and such an age. This is a team with Jack Hughes and Nico Heischer. If I could play really well here, and that was the Sheldon Keefe thing, right? Sheldon Keefe coached really well with the Toronto Marlies, and he didn't take other jobs because he eventually got the job in the Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't know how many he interviewed for or was even a candidate for, but I assume he would be because the Marlies were winning. So I'm sure he saw a path to the NHL. I'm sure he saw a path to be, a top candidate in places, including with the Devils. And that hasn't worked out. And I see where you're going with it about, has that changed how he came to work? I don't know. But clearly whatever he was doing wasn't working.
It almost, you know what? It might have. I mean, it's almost kind of like a dead-end job. It's not. It's not. You're not going anywhere with the organization for any time soon because Sheldon Keefe is there for 5 years.
Right.
So it's kind of a buzzkill for him. It's like, what? I'm going to develop these guys just to, still be taking the bus in Utica?
But look what happened in Edmonton. In the middle of the season, they hired the guy from the Hartford Wolfpack. So these really good AHL coaches.
Yeah, but that's totally different, though. Because the guy's been there for a while in Edmonton. Was it Woodcroft that got fired?
Right.
But he was there for a while. Sheldon Keefe's not even 2 months into his contract.
No, but I'm saying, they hired a guy from a completely different organization.
Oh.
They didn't hire the guy who was their AHL coach. They hired the guy that was the Rangers' AHL coach for the Hartford Wolfpack. And, so these good AHL coaches can still be, can still take over in situations where they're a candidate, right? So
But it's rare, though. It's rare that those situations happen.
Yeah, I would argue that you could also say that set the domino, right? That set up the domino to say, oh, this worked. And then he went all the way to Stanley Cup, right? So, teams always try to mimic what's worked. But again, that's not the case here. Because Dineen did the opposite. He never proved that he was the best coach in the AHL. He never did anything in the playoffs. He failed last season. And I say this with understanding of what the goals had to change from the start of the season to the end of the season because of all of the time the Devils had to pilfer talent from there. But this season we're seeing negative development from high picks. Stillman is a first-round pick, and people had high hopes for him. People thought he was turning the corner and becoming a guy who could be a fourth liner on this team maybe this year. And he looks like a fourth liner in the AHL. And that's a problem, right? You need this guy to get the very best out of these top prospects. And I don't think you can argue that he is. Or was, I guess.
That's a problem. Do you really believe Nolan Foote really has a future with the New Jersey Devils at this point?
I wrote that he should be called up, now. I think he should be the guy that replaces Bastian. Man, that injury, he just looks like kind of a different guy right now. He didn't look good in the preseason. Or maybe he'll develop or maybe he'll play into game shape or something. Maybe there was just something with the recovery from injury, but he came back at the end of last season. So there's a lot of instances of guys who once had a lot of problems who get injured and it just kind of falls off the map. And this is also I'm gonna play this very safe, But I also can't discount that he was playing with his brother last year and then his brother got arrested. Like, I don't know what that does to a guy mentally. And is it good for him to be here? But I've just seen too many instances lately with the Devils where the change of scenery doesn't work. Right? We tried it with Bowers, tried it with Beckman, we tried it with a couple guys. These just not good players. No offense to them. Like, good is a relative term. These are guys who aren't performing. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's the most we've ever spoken about Utica though on a podcast. And we've had Utica guests on before.
Yeah, we have. Sometimes we forget there's another team that, a farm system that
Right.
you can see the Devils' future. But, right now, I want to transition over to the Devils. I mean, I'm loving these shutouts that they've been having.
No when they're against us.
Well, I wasn't talking about that. You know what I meant.
Right. Yeah, no. Jake Allen looked stupendous on, what was that? Was that Sunday or was that Saturday? Was that Monday? My days are all mixed up.
Monday,
thank you. Jake Allen looked so good on Monday.
He wanted to get out there. I mean, that one game he had where he was letting up goals, 8 goals.
Right.
The
Tampa game.
Yeah.
But then they gave him one after that, and he was still bad. He played 4 against, I can't remember the opponent, but it was a while ago.
There was another game afterwards?
I could have sworn that's what I read. I was looking at he had
confused.
Because I was surprised when I saw it. I thought he hadn't played since. Yeah, he played. He was against the Islanders. He lost in overtime. That was 3 days later.
Oh, jeez. Where have I been?
And again, like, it wasn't the worst performance in the world. The Devils didn't really come to play, but an .867 save percentage is not what you want, even if it's just one game. But Allen now has 2 shutouts and a 1 goal against in 3 of his 5 games. Like, and I know you can't take out the 8 goal performance, right? You can't take that out. But let's say you take it out. You're talking about a guy with like a 940 save percentage. It's just like very quick math. I don't think it's correct, but he that means he stopped. He's faced 99 shots in those other 4 games, and he's allowed 5 goals on 99 shots. It's like a 945 save percentage. It's starting to look like that Lightning game was the outlier. Even the Islanders game, if you didn't have the Lightning game, you'd accept the Islanders game. Like, he gave up 4, including an overtime goal. It's fine. It is what it is. I think the Devils, they have a tandem. Do I think it's it's not like a top 5 tandem in the league, but it's for sure a top 15 tandem. And if they, you got to take the good with the bad, but I want to say it's a top 10 tandem. I want to say that. I'm not ready to go there yet, but it's definitely a top 15 tandem in the league. You have top half of the spectrum goaltending, and the Devils have faced a couple other things that have been issues. There's some chemistry things that seem to come up every so often. We saw it in the Calgary game where just the offense just wasn't clicking. But that'll come with time. I'm not worried about the offense. As long as the goaltending is this team's making the playoffs. And that's the start, right? You just have to make the playoffs. And then it's a crapshoot, right? Then you can get a hot goalie who can carry you to the cup final. Then, Jack Hughes can go on a heater, and Nico Hischier can go on a heater. We saw what could happen with the right chemistry of guys when the Devils won that Rangers series. And I will die on this hill. I want to say I'm not big on excuses, but it's not true. I'm an analyst. I'm a whatever you want to call me, a columnist, you want to call me a blogger, whatever. Like, my job is to really take a look at the ins and outs of this team. And they looked tired in those first two games, or they looked like I'm trying to think of the right word, like not disengaged, but just kind of like overwhelmed in those first two games against Carolina, in 2023. And I do think it's because they had a day off and Carolina had 5. I think it's a 7-game series if they both have 3 days off. Even if Carolina had 5 days and Devils had 3 days off, I think it's a 7-game series because I think, I think Schmid was tired, and I don't think they pull Schmid for Vitek, who's just was out of his skeeds. But that's all revisionist history. It doesn't really matter. But it just goes to show you what happens when a guy gets hot. And, like Palat got hot that year. You had a pretty... And obviously Schmid got hot. He had the shutout in Game 7. You had a couple key contributors. And, like, this team right now, how it's built, like, you have to love this, right? Like, you have to love the way this team is built.
Yeah, right now, I mean, they're a work in progress. They keep on improving.
For sure.
I mean, they had a good start to the season. Then you had a 4-game lull there. But, right now, I mean, you talked about having, top of the half of the league in goaltending tandems. When you talk about top 15, look, for many years now, the Devils were probably the bottom 30, 30, 31, right, and 32. So that's a huge improvement.
I mean, you're not wrong.
And it
except
is
for
nice.
that, except for 22 to 23. That was the one year where they had. And like Vitek wasn't great, but he was top 20, 25. They didn't have great goaltending that year.
But they didn't have it really like a steady tandem. Up until then, Akira Schmid came in out of nowhere like Keith Kincaid and just was the guy at that moment.
Forget. We went into the playoffs thinking that Mackenzie Blackwood was going to be the backup.
That's true, too.
Like, we truly thought Mackenzie Blackwood was going to be our backup, and he...
Against the Capitals, he really played himself out of a...
He did. And did Schmid get a game at the end of the season, or did they just throw him in?
I think they just threw him in. I think they threw him... Was it Schmid that they threw in that game where they came back against Washington?
I think so, right? It wasn't Dawes, and I don't think it was Vitek. I think Vitek was just not playing, like he was just not active.
I think they were trying to keep him
fresh.
Yeah, for the playoffs. I don't remember, but I remember the Devils and to almost pull that off as well, because I think they got a point out of that game in overtime.
They did. Didn't they win that game? Isn't that the one that Luke Hughes scored?
Or maybe they got 2 points. I don't remember. Yeah, I think it's.
I think that was the one that Luke Hughes scored the crazy overtime winner
Yeah,
in like his first or second game as an NHLer.
we were at Stagehouse with Arlette that day. Game Day Live and Devils After Dark. That was a good time.
Yeah,
By the way, we're going to Tampa. Did you know that?
I heard.
Nick? Yeah,
I did.
We're
Unfortunately, I won't be
exactly-
joining you, but I'm excited for you.
Yeah, for those that don't know, go to joinourcrew.com. Yes, joinourcrew.com. Sign up. You'll get the latest of where Shorts Guy and I will be in Tampa, if you're going to be in Tampa. And also, Nick, we've got a giveaway.
Ooh.
Yeah, giveaway. So if you sign up for joinourcrew.com, you are automatically entered for any kind of contest for games, game tickets, that we will randomly select you. Whether you've been with joinourcrew.com back in February at the outdoor game when you signed up, or if you sign up now, joinourcrew.com, because JCB Architectural, they texted me, Nick, that they have 2 tickets to give away for tomorrow's game against the Montreal Canadiens.
Okay.
And their seats is like row 1 in the 100 level at Prudential Center.
Yeah.
Great seats. Great seats. You don't have anybody in front of you. You got people to the left of you, the right of you, behind you. And they seem to like me there. Anytime I sit next to John of JCB Architectural, I'm going to put it on social media, and we're going to randomly select one of you folks that joined joinourcrew.com that signed up, and we'll announce it maybe tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's tomorrow's game, actually. Yeah, JCB Architectural. One of the finest establishments of, if you ever need a house built, new construction, or maybe something with your house right now, you got to get a right architect to do the job. JCB Architectural. Yeah. I mean, look.
Do they cover South Jersey?
Of course they do. They cover South Jersey, and when they do stuff, they get the proper permits. It passes. They do.
We like that.
Yeah, it's not a hack job. JCB Architectural.
I do. You know what? I need a guy for some basement stairs, so I'm going to call JCB Architectural.
I'm sure
Sorry,
he
I'm
knows
dealing
how
with
to
a
do
little.
it.
Dealing with a little bit of daycare germs right now, so I'm
If
sure
you
y'all
want to
are
build
hearing
an
that.
ice rink in your attic, call JCB Architectural. He will figure it out. He'll get the proper permits. He'll pass. Can you imagine?
What
if
is
he
the
did that?
permitting process for an indoor skating rink at a residential home? Like, I kind of want to know, because my attic's pretty big. It's a guest room and an office and a storage space for all the baby stuff. So it's got some room to it. If we removed a lot of that, I think we could get an ice rink in there.
Steve Engels says, all AHL talk. You didn't miss much when Justin Lindholm filed into the YouTube chat. What do you mean you didn't miss much? You missed a lot. That was some in-depth analysis. If you want to get in-depth analysis, go to pucksandpitchforks.com. That's my go-to.
Yeah. I've been saying it for years. Every single day, you will have new content. And the timing is different. I put it up when it's ready. And sorry, I'm sick. That's my.
Oh, no, it's all right.
New articles every day. New articles every single day.
Oh.
Every single day we'll have new articles.
Let me tell you something. Just
New in-depth analysis, new news pieces. There's already a piece on Kevin Dineen on pucksandpitchforks.com from Luke Garrison. There's also a new piece from Marcy Rubin on 3 guys who need to play better or have underperformed.
Love
That's
Marcy
gone up
Rubin.
in the past couple hours. And like I said, before midnight, my article on the prospects I think will play better under a new coach, that'll be up before midnight. So you have plenty of articles, but every day, in-depth analysis. I will tell you this: I don't do game stories. And I've discouraged every one of my writers to do game stories.
There's so much out there already. I mean, that's a saturated market.
And I'm all for trying to be the best of a saturated market. Like, I'm not going to shy away from news just because everybody's writing about news. But we've shown in the past that when news happens, people come to us. But I also think that's because we give you analysis for every game. And I tell them, like, listen, I'd rather you write about one crazy save and the repercussions of that crazy save and the historical context of that crazy save over a game story where you just mention the crazy save. Because I think the way people ingest entertainment, the value of it, I don't think like game stories. I just think that if I want a game story, I'll just watch the highlights on YouTube. You know what I mean? Like I want in-depth analysis. I want opinion-based writing. I want I don't want to call it a take because like I know you say content is the most overrated use. I think take is right up there. Like there's my take. I got a hot take. Like
Not so
I don't
much.
want it to be like
it's funny. Because the 24/7 news cycle has been crazy. With the election,
right.
With Major League Baseball and the World Series and all that, and basketball
Started the NBA season,
and plus football. It's just and there are a lot of people that are starting out. Like you could write for pucksandpitchforks.com. Sorry, Nick. And you have a diverse variety of great writers. I don't know how you recruit them, Nick, pucksandpitchforks.com. But just when on Twitter, when you see these, up and coming, let's say, up and coming reporters or news people or even bloggers or whatnot, they do a C word drop. And I've just seen so many times the C word drop lately.
Yeah, So sorry, I'm distracted because Daniel Moa of I think it's with the Hockey Writers, the Hockey Writer. No, it is the Hockey Writers. My bad. He just shared a new video from an account on Instagram called "Rides Like a Mother." That's probably something I shouldn't be saying on the podcast, but of the Nathan Bastian fight that caused the jaw injury.
Yeah.
And I mean, Bastian just really wasn't trying to fight there. He was just trying to avoid it, and the rest really just did a terrible job of protecting the player there. Bastian was literally just like this and just getting walloped in the face. And, I just have to, I need better from the refs. Like, I'm somebody who doesn't, and we'll disagree on this, Sam, and we can end on this because this is always good to end on a controversy. I'm somebody who, I don't see the reason for fighting anymore. I just don't. I think a good, clean hit can do more than a fight can.
I would agree with you to an extent on staged fighting. What they used to really do back in the late 90s where everything was staged.
Yeah. And listen,
pre-planned.
Yeah, I'm not trying to take out the scrums. The scrums are fine. You don't see a lot of people getting hurt, but this one-on-one, drop the gloves fighting stuff, it's just not the value proposition is nearly gone. But if you're going to keep it in, refs need to they just need to stop it more often. Like, they need to know, like, this is not, like, if a guy's getting walloped and can't get set, you're trying to give them a second to get set so they could continue fighting. It's just not, like, the value's not there. Just stop it. Just end it. Just pull them apart. Like, protect the player. And they didn't protect the player there, and now Bastion's hurt for, I would assume, at least 6 weeks, maybe more. And he has to play with that crazy mask that the players don't like. So I'm kind of just assuming this is a lost season for Bastion, and this might be his last season in New Jersey. So, I know these are all massive jumps, right? Massive leaps, but there's that's what I think the hand he's been dealt because a referee didn't stop a fight.
Yeah. I was really mad, speaking of refs, last Saturday, Penn State, Ohio State, because it just seems like, I know this is going off topic here, but when Penn State plays either Ohio State or Michigan, I always feel like the refs made probably at least a dozen bad calls during that game. And it was one of those games years ago that was so bad that I think Joe Paterno actually got on the NCAA's case to get instant replay in the college football. Because it was so bad. It was so bad. And actually, I believe the Devils as well, something happened to Laurie Boschman. I think it was supposed to be a goal. This is going back maybe late 80s, early 90s.
Right, I was going to say, this is a long time ago.
Yeah, that because it was so bad that they got instant replay the next year, which turned out to bite the Devils at some point that year. It always happens that way.
Just for context, Sam, the greatest referees in football referee 16 games a week in the NFL. The second best ones referee in the SEC. The third best ones is probably what you're looking at in the Big Ten. Mm-hmm. And then my West Virginia Mountaineers, the Big 12, are looking at in either the fourth or maybe even the fifth, if you consider like maybe the fourth go to the CFL. Right? I don't know what the pay disparity is. Big 12 refs are notoriously terrible. There's on both sides. They just don't have like a good grasp of the rules, and tend to miss a lot. But I understand your plight as a Big 12 college football watcher.
Oh, I mean, you make a tackle, and then you just get up, and it's called taunting.
Yeah,
like, what are you
the
supposed
taunting
to do?
thing? They don't have a grasp on the taunting thing at all.
Or even the video replay people were just bad. Anyway, this has nothing to do with Devils hockey, but it kind of does, because sometimes I feel the same way with the Devils. There are certain teams that they play, or certain refs, like Justin Kia. Remember that game where the chicken fingers were being tossed? Anytime he is officiating a Devils game, like, did the Devils do something to him as a kid where he's still resentful? I don't know.
Maybe. Who knows?
You got stuff to plug? I know we were plugging before.
Yeah. Well, so I have the AHL piece that's coming out. Vinny Parisi's been writing. He's got some pieces out. I have that Utica piece, which is interesting now, right? It's interesting now that so if you go to the Utica Comets page on pucksandpitchforks.com, yes, Utica Comets have their own page on pucksandpitchforks.com. If you scroll over prospects on the top line, you'll see the Utica Comets page come down there. So go check out like my analysis of the Utica Comets and just kind of like the historical context and what's happened over the past couple of years and what the season's going to be all about from now on. And then I'll write about also those 3 prospects that I think could really use that coaching change that came. And we write a lot because I am taking a overseas vacation Thanksgiving week, so but I still commit to everyday content for you. So either I will schedule out some pieces for that week, or I will do that, and some of our writers will pick up some of the slack. So you will still get content for the entirety of the month of November.
Yeah, say that word again.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm going to find a word that annoys you.
I don't know. I'm a communications person. Like, no words annoy me.
No,
Words
I'm a troll. I'll figure it out.
Okay. But that's it.
Yeah, and also, just want to reiterate, sign up for joinourcrew.com automatically to enter to win 2 tickets for tomorrow night's game against the Montreal Canadiens, courtesy of JCB Architectural, JCP Architectural, where they'll build their house or build your house for you, or at least design it. I think that's what they do. They're architects. Anyway. All right. I'm going to hit the music. Who's going to win those tickets? 2 tickets. Nick. 2 tickets.
I mean, listen. We love free tickets. We love it.
Hey, you want to
JCB Architectural. They're going to build my stairs.
Hey, did you sign up, because we can always make things happen for you, Nick. No, I'm just kidding.
I did sign up, but I signed up during the Stadium Series.
Oh, yeah. Like
that's how I found out we moved.
I'm telling you, get all your information there. Anyway. Also, the story behind the tickets is JCB Architectural John. The reason why there's 2 tickets available to give away is because his son, Sam, no relations to me, he wanted to go to hockey practice to work on his game. So he'd rather go there and skip the game tomorrow night to go to hockey practice. Couldn't be more proud.
There you go.
Yes.
He's ready. He's got to be feature double.
And it's good for one of our fans because they're going to win.
Yeah. It's a win-win.
Yeah. Win-win-win. All right. Anyway. Well, till next time, let's go Devils.